Hello and welcome to Perspectives. My name is David Schoneman. I'm your host on this show. I hope you've been enjoying the shows we've been taping recently. If you saw the last one, I had our son Isaac on the show. 8-year-old boy who had a lot to say about a lot of different things. I hope you enjoyed that. But now we're back into the regular routine. We're in January 2025. Happy New Year to you all. And we're going to get back to some current events and some political issues and all kinds of other things wherever the conversation seems to go. I'm here in the studio today with Dave Narkunas. Once again, he's been a guest before. I hope you've enjoyed some of the things he's had to say. And I'm also here with a gentleman by the name of Greg Faith, who is known to both Dave and I, and he's got a lot of technical expertise on electronics and a lot of other things that I think you might find fascinating. One of the things we've wanted to talk about in the past, but seem to have always run out of time before we get to it, is this whole issue of drones that were sighted in New Jersey, starting there and really all over the country. And we'll hope to get some of that information from Greg today. Greg's got some ideas and comments on that. Gentlemen, welcome. Glad to have you both here. It's always a pleasure.
Good to be here.
So, Greg, tell us a little bit about your background, the technical expertise, where you come from, what you've done, and then we can start talking about this whole drone issue, which I have a lot of questions about. Maybe some of the folks at home do too.
Well, in a nutshell, I'm former Navy, 6 years. Got out in the '82, went to work for the government as a contractor for the Combat Systems Group out of San Diego, doing the same thing I did while I was an active military member, was radars. So drones fits right down my alley. But I've also worked at Edwards Air Force Base for the B-2 bomber flight test program. When that program ended, I went to work at NASA at Edwards Air Force Base at Dryden. And in 2004, I retired and moved to New Hampshire, which I opened up a hobby shop here in town. And when that business decided to close, I went ahead and said, well, now it's time to semi-retire. And I went to work for a international home improvement company here. One of the buildings is here in town, and that's where I met Dave, and now I've met you, and it'd be a pleasure to help you out.
I worked at that same international home improvement company for a few months. Dave works there, you worked there. A lot of interesting people. You know, years ago, I worked as an engine builder. I was building Volkswagen air-cooled engines, little shop in Watertown, Massachusetts. And there was a guy there who was a cancer researcher. He had done all kinds of government grants and all kinds of cancer research. He got a little bit tired of it, and he wasn't retirement age yet, but he just needed to do something else. And there he was in Watertown, Massachusetts, building air-cooled Volkswagen engines.
It's amazing what you find at these international home improvement businesses of the part-time
It really is.
There,
you know,
doctors,
I think
scientists.
Some of these companies offer really good opportunities, a chance to do something different, and who knows where the meetings of the conversation can lead.
They hold a rein pretty tight on this place about how we discuss certain things. Dave and I are always trying to catch a couple seconds here and there to talk about current affairs or things like this drone issue that we're talking about today, hopefully. And it's fun to watch, you know, the people walking by. We keep it quiet, but still we'll get little weird looks from our managers.
That's okay.
Get back to business, guys.
And this.
Oh,
I still can't wear this hat.
Oh, really?
At work.
Oh.
Oh, boy.
Well, you know, the election's over. Trump won.
That's what I said.
And it should be okay to,
because
it's no longer really a political sign.
I'm supporting the president.
The current president, right. Soon to be current president. We'll have to get through
elect president.
The inauguration.
More days, folks. It's coming. Calm down now. It's coming.
It's coming. It's coming. So let's talk about drones a little bit. This was kind of an interesting thing that cropped up. People started calling in to authorities in New Jersey saying, I'm seeing this thing. It's a drone. It's an SUV-sized drone. Now, I used to work in the aviation business. I've been on the B-2. I didn't work on the B-2, but I've had exposure to a lot of different things. And I've worked on some of the drone programs like with the Predator and the Reaper and whatnot. And I know something about these airplanes. So when I hear tales of drones flying over New Jersey, a lot of questions come to mind. Why only at night? Why are there lights on? What are people really seeing? It's very easy for someone who's not familiar with it to mistake a jetliner for a drone or whatnot.
Right. One of my main questions was, all right, if this is some kind of foreign entity or a Chinese entity spying on us, why are the lights on? You know what I mean? That was the first thing I thought. If you're doing reconnaissance and surveillance, you're not going to want anyone to know you're doing it.
So what are these sightings all about? Is there any reality to this, in your opinion?
Well, you got to look at New Jersey as a whole and say, what's in New Jersey? There are definitely military compounds there, and there's classified projects being done all over the United States. As a matter of fact, New Hampshire's one of them, where programs are existing in the light of day and the darkness of night. These programs right now that the government's involved in, you're going to be the last person to ever hear about it. The problem is they have to follow federal aviation flight requirements. They have to be lighted at night. Some of these are businesses who are testing out their equipment. A lot of them are police departments. They have their own drones. Everybody wants one because in the future, drones will be out in our parking lot. We'll walk out to it, put a product that the person has purchased into that drone and wave it goodbye. 5 minutes later, it's going to come back empty. They're going to have their product. It's coming. That's just the future. But all these guys have to be able to transmit their energy. So everything gets monitored by the Federal Aviation Administration and the Federal Communications Commission. So if you're sitting there with a spectrum analyzer one night, sweeping the bands of these operating vehicles, you're going to catch them. But for the average citizen walking around with their dog or just walking around, it's technology being tested. Now you're starting to see the smaller versions being used to replace fireworks. And these things are now called swarms. Imagine having your own military by use of swarms. And you can weaponize these, and that's where the FAA and the NSA and the FBI and local authorities are saying, wait a minute, we must slow down because you can weaponize these. And next thing you know, you're dropping, I don't care if it's dog feces or chemicals to fertilize your garden, or you're out looking. I'll give you an example. Real estate agents and insurance companies for homeowners are now flying drones over people's homes to find violations. It's a violation of their civil rights, the right to privacy.
You have your airspace.
You own it to the moon. If you own a deed to the home you're living in, you're allowed to take action within reason. You don't want to take a shotgun and point at your neighbor's window and try to shoot a drone that's coming across. That's obviously violating their airspace, but the technology is there to take them down. Jamming. Now, if you look at a few incidents down in Orlando where they were doing a light show and 19 of these things fell out of the air.
Yeah, I heard about that, and a little boy needed some
was
kind
injured.
of
heart surgery.
The VP of that company was present when it occurred, and not a word was said about. Obviously they got to file a flight plan. They have to. The government got back. I remember working as a hobby shop owner. The FAA called me because my shop was near the airport. Turn off your radio. You're radiating right now. I went, you guys are telling me I can't turn on a transmitter. Nope, you're banned. Well, I might as well leave the business. That's exactly what I did. I'm trying to demonstrate to these consumers, these products, hobby grade drones in the early 2000s.
How big was this drone that injured this little boy?
Well, besides this pad right here we're sitting. So it's about 8 foot square foot.
So it's pretty big.
They're big. Oh, yes.
I mean, you see the little ones.
Size,
the little ones that the hobbyists, they're about this large.
Way less than a pound.
Okay.
We sell
These little
ones
ones.
selling at work.
Yeah, we sold one.
Them.
I have one. I bought it, and it uses a cell phone app. It has its own miniature circuit for XYZ coordinates. I can start getting into more detail, but not today. The key is everybody's being exposed to drones because the industry's coming to your home.
So these people are actually seeing drones. They're not 100% mistaken.
Correct.
They're definitely
not from a foreign planet or anything like that, because if you're going to come here, you're going to start eating us. You're coming here from a long distance. You're looking for
be
food.
hungry.
You're going to be hungry. So if anybody's watched whatever television show was in the 60s, To Best Serve Man, wasn't a good book. It was a cookbook. How to best serve man. So you got to take a little tongue-in-cheek on what's going on now to a point, but clandestine organizations, organized crime, if I want to transport something from point A to point B, that's the way to do it.
So when the government in New Jersey and elsewhere said, don't worry about it, they're tacitly acknowledging that there's something going on, but it's not
Out of
for
their
public
control.
consumption.
Yeah, it's not
They
dangerous.
haven't controlled
We don't know
it
what
yet.
it is, but it poses no danger
But trust me,
whatsoever.
once they get it,
really?
they'll tax it.
They're going to tax it.
They'll tax it.
Undoubtedly. Now, getting back to a little piece of current events here, we want to talk about New Orleans at some stage, but there's also the Las Vegas, what that perpetrator called a wake-up call, not a terrorist action, but he apparently committed suicide and then blew up that Cybertruck.
How do we
I
know?
don't think.
There's a lot of questions we don't know the answer
You
to.
got a gun that could blow the. No, something just. This whole thing has got fish coming out of it every which way but straight. Tesla designs their vehicles where they could be self-driving. We already have proof that this man was charging them, so it has to have some sort of human intervention to charge the vehicle. So he was there. The question is, was he there alive in the vehicle? Because it didn't blow any windows out. It was fireworks, mortar fire. It was this
His
was more
phone
of a,
was, they could still extract from his phone. Wouldn't that thing have just melted?
Okay. If he was that disturbed, that you all in the armed military need to start checking your people real. I'm serious right now.
Yeah, he wasn't
Well,
he a
there's
Green
certainly.
Beret?
He was Green
Green
Beret,
Beret.
active military. He was on
Yeah.
leave. I feel for him because now the stories are starting to come out, second knowledge and hearsay, she said. But some handler or some other individual in Germany is shaking in his boots right now because you granted that leave. If you know this guy was falling apart, he's already got sort of a manifesto, but the letter, I haven't gone too deep into it because I have other things to sweat other than a little hotel getting some burnt floor in their driveway and a little bit more publicity for the current president, but it could be the beginnings of another plot.
So sort of testing to see,
Sure, if I'm
just
like,
like they tested for 9/11.
We rehearse
probing the
everything.
system.
Yes.
But some of the manifesto. Let's get back to the drones for a second. Some of the manifesto things that this guy has apparently said in emails, because we don't know who actually sent them, but they're attributed to him. He said that he talked about these drones being, I'm not sure what the right term is, but somehow gravitational powered and controlled by submarines, Chinese submarines off the coast. I read. I mean, did his email say that, or am I wrong on that?
I can't verify that, but I let you know something right now. If there's a lurking Chinese submarine operating anywhere in our waters, the military knows it. We know it.
I'm sure that we would know about it, but we got a current president, who I think is bought and paid for.
But there's other people who are sitting behind him who are true patriots saying, regardless of who's running the government, my job is to verify that nobody incurs or comes into my territory. The sheriff's watching the sheep, the dog's watching the sheep. Somebody's got to be monitoring it. And this email thing is, you can, through the technology of internet, the source of the emails can be located if you're willing to find out. You just have to have an IT person get in there, find the servers, find the local addresses, and put this whole thing together, because how an email is sent is traceable to that computer that it was generated from. So, but we're not in the knowledge line or picking order to say, okay, well, the gentleman was just, it could be anybody under the sun mimicking him.
I see.
We can't talk to a dead man, but the dead man left enough evidence behind for the crumbs to just be followed, the dots to be put out in the paper line drawn, to find out that this guy was dead days before or a day or so. We don't know. Nobody's going to know until you can capture
Who was
that.
there? And who was there when the car went,
Well, he had been there once before. He
Yeah.
had practiced to run.
Yeah, I saw that too in the news.
Who was there? Oh, he simultaneously shot himself and detonated. How do you know that? How can you verify any of this stuff?
Yeah.
He could have been dead in a car, and his car could have. There's all these possibilities.
If he's going to turn on, if he's going to let this gas flow, like butane or anything that's a gaseous form, and fire this gun, this weapon that has such a muzzle velocity that flash is going to ignite whatever's in that vehicle.
Is that the theory?
That's my theory.
Okay, so that it was muzzle flash that ignited.
But there's
some
going to
kind
be a noise that should have caught somebody's attention inside the hotel or the lobby or
the gunshot noise.
the gunshot, because
And
nobody.
he had a big gun apparently. Desert
The
Eagle,
Desert Eagles.
50
There's
caliber.
a couple. I thought there were a couple in the car.
Well,
That's a pretty big gun. That's a very big
gun.
gun.
But the thing is, if I put something to my temple, either way, it's gonna keep going. It's
Right.
gonna look at that brain tissue and skull. There's nothing
gonna
to be
keep
in
going.
there. So where's that reason? Again, this is a smell fish.
Yeah. And of course, the FBI comes out and was going to give us their information, but they are totally without credibility these days, in my opinion.
Let's put it this way: if I was an FBI agent right now, after the person stood there and said in New Orleans, this was not a terrorist act.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, go back to week one at Annapolis or wherever the rock they pulled her from. No offense, but you know you're not supposed to say stuff like that during the initial press release. They're looking for the glory moment. She had her 15 minutes of fame now.
Yeah.
And, of course
And it echoes what Hillary Clinton said about Benghazi, too,
let's
you
not
know?
go
And so
there.
there's
What a
there's not truth
disaster.
that's being presented. So it's
we won't
you
be
really
told.
don't know. You can't listen to anybody and says, "Yep, I believe that." You just can't because of the source.
We have to wait till the congressional study.
I think the congressional study
to sit
can-
down,
can
everybody's
produce
sitting
something.
there, and the guy going, "Listen, you're lying to me. We know you're lying to me. Bailiff, take them away."
Yeah.
But we civilize our way of doing justice, so the truth will never be told. But as we know, Mr. Trump is supposed to be telling us who shot Kennedy. He can open up that curtain because everybody's gone.
Well,
So
I
let's-
think that there's been a real crisis of truth in this nation for some
Absolutely.
period of time,
And
and I'm hoping that he can shed some light on a lot of things. So let's just go back to the drones to wrap this up.
Sure.
So there probably are really some drones flying around.
definitely.
They're
Definitely.
they're some kind of a test, either commercial or maybe military, depending on the locations. You know, when I was involved with UAVs out in California too, we're flying around. I mean, the planes could be seen.
They're allowed to do it.
They're allowed to do it. So they were in airspace, and if you knew where to look and you had a good pair of binoculars or tracking or a radar, if you're a hobbyist or something, you can find these things. So there's probably some truth to what we've heard from New Jersey. What about this gravitational?
Well, my opinion right now is you throw enough money at anything, you'll be able to create it physically. With this anti-gravity or gravitational motion, it's possible to sit down and really ponder the elements around you and the world around you and the physics around you and say to yourself, well, we fly, we can break the sound barrier, we can travel to different objects that are outside of our known atmospheric containment. So let's let our imagination run wild. But until you show me out in that parking lot that I can sit into it and but without getting inertia sickness, then make it happen.
Yeah.
Which goes to the drones. Some of these big, large drones may be personal transports. The Chinese are heavily working on. Again, NASA. When I worked there, we had a program called the National Aerospace Program, where we were breaking up the atmosphere into quads, cubes, and saying, okay, if a vehicle passes through it, now it's got FAAs, it's radiating, it's transmitting, its digital stream, it's able to talk to this vehicle. This goes back to early pre-911, where we can control an aircraft by another aircraft with technology streaming. If I can fly a vehicle this way and one this way, and I can have a window of so many feet around it, then I'm able to control that aerospace. As in the Jetsons, things will be zipping along. In Star Wars, you see it zipping along. That's where we're going. The future's coming to us.
But it sounds like we're maybe not there yet, at least not in knowledge. And this notion that they're being controlled by a submarine offshore, Chinese submarine, probably not happen. But this was in this supposed email manifesto.
Correct.
So we don't know about that stuff yet. We know that plenty of technology does exist, and the possibility that commercial enterprises are testing or military is testing, even in New Jersey, is certainly a possibility.
Because of that location of where the sightings are near the military installation. If
All
they're
right.
if they're playing outside the park, they can do that.
Okay. We'll see if anything more comes to light. It was all the latest news, a few month
well,
or two
it's a
ago.
buzz. Everybody's.
And now
but
it
what's
seems to
going on
be-
over here that they're making the media focus on this? What's happening?
Yeah.
Israel's still at war. We still
know.
have Syria. The
Ukraine.
situation.
Ukraine.
Ukraine.
Israel's at
Don't
war,
forget
Ukraine's at
that.
war, all this thing. Let's talk about New Orleans a little bit. That was definitely a terrorist
Absolutely.
activity.
And they're trying to
he
say
had a
it's
flag
not.
in the back of his truck, unfurled though. If you notice,
For hundreds of miles.
it was unfurled or furled.
Furled.
It wasn't flying and flapping in the breeze. So
Right, he
somebody-
wasn't advertising it. He had it there.
He had it there.
So that was going to be maybe
Oops,
his
I
clue.
forgot to check.
Yeah, but so that was definitely a terrorist
Why,
activity.
question,
He
why
was
are they
ISIS
trying
supporter.
to deflect what it actually is? Why are they trying to cover it up? It's what it was.
Well, that-
Everyone knows that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's more lying right to our face
The police
again.
department had egg on their face. They didn't think sidewalks you could still drive
It was
on.
absolutely preventable, too.
It was.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
And then that lady should resign. Superintendent
There's going
police
to be
should
lawsuits
resign immediately.
flying, lawyers and the ambulance chasers, nothing against lawyers, but the point is now you've created another nightmare for insurance companies. I feel for the families because it would be, anybody would just be heartbroken
Sure.
to be run over or injured
Yeah.
by somebody who, you took that man's life. Now he can't ask the questions we wanted to ask. But
Yeah.
he gave you no opportunity not to take. He didn't want to be taken alive.
Yeah, he didn't want to be taken alive, and we've seen that kind of thing before. That happened at the Christmas market in Germany recently, and we've seen other instances where someone's driven a vehicle through. And we have the Nashua Stroll here in Nashua, the day after Thanksgiving, and a number of years ago, there's a gentleman in town here who kind of raised a red flag. He said, "You know what? Look what's going on around the world. You got these kinds of things happening." He talked to the police department. He happened to know some of the police commissioners, and National Police Department took steps starting back then
Good.
to park big heavy snowplows
There you go.
at all the access
Deterrent.
points,
Deterrent.
just to not allow a vehicle to get through. Because
that's
there's a
good
lot of
thinking.
people, thousands
sir.
of people who
Yeah.
are walking up
Yes,
and down
sir.
Main
I've been there.
Street.
No situation where it is, folks. That's all I can tell you is be aware of your surroundings at any point in time.
Any
This can
point in
come
time.
land on your doorstep. That's why I'm a prepper.
Yeah, I think
One of
that
my things.
at any point in time, anything can happen.
Brought to
So
your front door.
the motive behind these terrorist activities is to get the population to be fearful and to put pressure on their own government. But we need to be vigilant and not let these guys get out of control. Anything else about New Orleans that came up that was of any interest in the news? And we had the director there saying it's not a terrorist activity. We had the barrier on the sidewalk missing.
And they just put them up. Like, right after it happened, they put them up.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
They didn't.
Oh,
yeah,
because the
right after
sugar
it
bowls
happened.
right then, and
Oh.
they laid the sugar bowl, and
And then I think something was
PR nightmare.
they wanted to do it for the Super Bowl, so they were saving up, and they weren't going to
They
have
weren't
to
gonna
pay
put 'em
people
up,
twice
yeah.
or something like that, or they wanted specialized people that'd be paid
Yeah,
their special money
yeah.
to do it for the Super Bowl at a different. I don't know, but I think saving money probably.
Well,
You know,
it's
I think it's
NASA,
about-
they got burned by quicker, faster, cheaper,
Yeah.
severely, and it costs lives.
Yes.
So I think being stingy costs
Money.
lives.
Well, I mean, anything, shrinkflation, a good example of saving money, but the consumer. We're a capitalist nation.
Right.
When I squeeze that toothpaste out and go, my, that came out rather quickly, and why did it gone already? That's the issues that I think are today's focus points, but yet we're being distracted. We need to have energy, independence return to this country.
We do need to have energy. That's going to be a key thing.
Cold out there.
It's cold out there. It's very cold out there today. We got the wood
Don't gonna tell
stove
me
burning at
twice.
home.
I work outside. I work outside.
We feel for you, brother.
I see people complaining how cold it is when they go to their car for lunch.
Well, now I know
And
what
I'm like,
snowbirds are snowbirds.
I'm out there.
So
Yeah.
call me Florida next year.
Yeah, yeah. So we have issues that the nation is going to be facing. I think there's going to be a continued terrorist threat. We have to be aware of that.
Not over. It's not
There's
never be over.
that's not over.
Never
Those
gonna go
folks
away.
are not giving up. And I think until Americans wise up to the ideology that's behind this and really understand it, because right now we continue, I think, to give that ideology, the Islamic ideology, a pass.
We're just flaming a fire. All we do is keep doing anything we do seems to irritate other entities. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
The isolationism, Trump tried to become an isolationist, but COVID crawled right in there and just undermined the entire concept. And we lost a lot of Americans only because he kept saying, close the borders, stop the planes, stop planes, do your research. And then everybody else started taking credit for everything he had created to get that.
Yeah.
That's the most irritating part in my mind is he's doing the right thing and you are undermining everything.
Well, that's the politics that takes over, that
The wicked beast.
sacrifices human lives or American lives.
Well, you know, we're not patsies. Americans are just not well educated.
Well, I think that's true. We rely on media for education. We rely on, I've been on my soapbox here about public education, about public schools.
Next show.
The things that are taught and not taught, I think, in public education is really kind of criminal.
Another thing is the assumptions that people make. Back to maybe New Orleans or both scenarios with the cyber car. We assumed that they were not radicalized before they joined the military.
Yeah.
What if they just didn't tell anyone?
Well, exactly.
You know what I mean? How do you know that they changed after? There was a point after.
Right.
What if they the whole time, because they couldn't say anything?
Right.
Well,
Because they couldn't. We don't know. There's a lot of things.
There's a lot of things, but I think that the risk is much bigger than we like to think.
The founding fathers meant to have this country be self-supporting. It meant for people could speak their mind. Yelling fire in the theater obviously is a no-brainer. Don't do it. But this man has a point of view. You have a point of view, and I have a point of view. If we disagree, let's agree to disagree. Sure. Fix the problems in the meantime.
That's right. That's American culture.
And
in that particular culture, if you don't agree, you got to kill somebody. And
exactly.
Really, that's what it comes down to.
That's exactly right.
Someone might write and say, "Well, that's not true. That's not true." Well, I think it is true. We need to, as a nation, I think, use our own minds and look into what this ideology really, really says. And you can go to the source.
Know the enemy.
Right, know the enemy. I think it's wise. Guys, we're out of time. It goes very, very quickly.
That was fun.
27 minutes has gone by.
Thanks
Thanks very much for coming in. Greg, thank you. Especially, I
you.
appreciate your technical knowledge there. And Dave, I appreciate your commentary and knowledge about current events too. So thanks both for coming in. We'll get you back in sometime.
That worked.
And I want to thank you folks too for tuning in. My name is David Schoneman. You're watching Perspectives. I'm here with Dave Narkunas and Greg Faith. And I hope you have enjoyed this show and look for future episodes. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.